Welcome to the Mexpreneurs Podcast, the podcast about the stories of Mexican tech startup founders who are building world-class, fast-growing companies and having a positive impact at a large scale. My name is Sergio Chavez. I'm a Mexican based in Germany, a tech startup founder, executive, and mentor, and your host. Today we have Juan Ocampo, Zaher Mazuq, and Claudia Nagel with us. They are the founders of Skyflare, a cybersecurity startup from Berlin, Germany. Skyflare was founded in 2021 with the mission to make e-commerce safe for webshop owners. Last year, the company saved over 600,000 euros in marketing expenses to their more than 40 B2B customers through their click fraud protection solution. Zaher is CEO, Claudia is CFO, and Juan is COO. Zaher is originally from Israel. He moved to Germany in 2017 to become the CTO of KIWI, a PropTech market leader in the DACH region in access systems for residential buildings. Before KIWI, he worked at IBM and developed security solutions for banks. Claudia is a German serial entrepreneur, tech investor, and holds a professorship in logistics. In 2018, she founded High-Rise Ventures, which invests in early-stage PropTech startups. Before High-Rise, Claudia founded KIWI, worked for a decade at McKinsey, and founded other ventures in e-commerce and B2C. Juan is originally from Mexico. He moved to Berlin in 2013 to study a master's degree. He then joined KIWI, where he met Claudia and Zaher and raised through the ranks during 5 years, starting as a working student all the way to becoming head of operations. He later continued working with Claudia at High-Rise as venture development manager before co-founding Skyflare. I hope you enjoy. Support for this episode comes from Partnership Leaders, the leading community of partnership professionals and executives in SaaS and tech with over 1,500 members globally. If you're a tech startup founder, you know that partnerships are essential for the success of your business. PL is the place to connect with decision makers in strategic, tech, and channel partnerships at leading SaaS and tech companies like HubSpot, Salesforce, Google, and AWS. PL is also a thought leader, creating incredible content on how you can leverage partnerships to take your tech startup to the next level. I'm a member of PL and have seen firsthand the richness and value of this incredible community. Visit partnershipleaders.com to learn more and to apply to become a member. Make sure to mention in your application that Mexpreneurs referred you so you can receive a special price if your application is accepted. Hi, Zaher, Claudia, Juan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So please tell us, what is Skyflare?
Skyflare mainly is a cybersecurity startup. We currently located in Berlin, and our focus is on e-commerce. We provide an end-to-end solution for e-commerce. Usually you would pick and max different kinds of solutions to get the maximum protection, and we came up with the idea to just provide one solution that will address all the problems. And the focus mainly to make it affordable, that every shop can use it without the need to think twice if they have the budget for it or not. And for usually like in the cybersecurity field, solutions are expensive. And part of why Skyflare was born is to make it accessible, to make it affordable, and there will be no excuse not to have a cyber protection in place.
So the North Star, the big vision for the company is that every online shop, every e-commerce business should be secure, safe, something along those lines?
Yes, because we are shoppers, and when you go and do online shopping, it doesn't matter like what you don't know. As a shopper, you don't know what size of the shop is. You go, you put your credit card, you buy, and you go on. So the idea that everybody should have some security in place, and it shouldn't be the solution only for the big players, because the big shops, they have enough solutions, they have enough fraud prevention, bot protection, any kind of cybersecurity issue, they have a solution there. But the small ones don't even know that they can afford it.
And that even includes, for example, small online shops that are built, on different website builders, like they're also exposed to these type of cybersecurity threats?
Yes, because there are different kinds of threats, but the idea behind the threats, or usually when you create an attack and you go attack something, you don't, like we are building a solution, so we have to follow a set of laws, set of rules, and compared to the attackers, look up few shops, they will send different kinds of attacks. They don't even know what these shops are. And that's something that is like many in the whole cyber field, they don't know what they are attacking. And of course, when we're talking about like big ones, the attackers will make a dedicated attack. But that takes more time. So it's easier just to try something, scan the whole list of shops. It might hit, then you get a credit card, or you get, some personal details, or you can break into the shop and mess it up. So there's different parts of Skyflare that's supposed to address not only one problem, but all of them. So there's also the two parts of, there's one part, they're like the bad people who are trying, like bad actors who are trying to attack the shop, but you also have the competitors that they can cause some damage. And yeah, the size of the shop doesn't matter. It's just a matter of like if you're individually targeted or you're just part of, or just like see what sticks. And that happens. And there's so many small shops, even if we don't look only at shops, there's like websites that also get attacked. Nobody cares how big they are or just maximizing the effectiveness of the attack.
So you're definitely into tackling a big problem in e-commerce space. And I would imagine also COVID, the fact that we all went much more into the online world has also probably just accelerated the need for the amount of threats or exposure.
Yes, because COVID had different implications. And now, if you add on top of it the whole inflation problem, so people will kind of try, gain some money not in the legitimate method. So I remember when COVID started, everything spiked. Okay, there's more shopping, but there's also more attacks because there are more shopping, so people are trying to. The majority of the new customers that came during COVID, they weren't an online shoppers before. And there's also lots of shops that they weren't online shops before, and everything changed overnight. And nobody had enough time to, go through, okay, I need to secure the shop before I start selling stuff. So it's a long way. Also, there's lots of education that needs to be done. Usually when we talk about e-commerce, everybody's talking about putting ads, making sales, having the best numbers ever, but that's not the full story. Before you start focusing on the marketing, you at least need to make sure that the shop is secure. Minimally, so it's kind of one of these challenges that need to be addressed. And things don't get better. That's the sad part of the cyber field. Things don't get better. Always there will be I've been in this field for long enough to know that doesn't matter what kind of protections you put in place, there will always be somebody who will try to find a new way to cause the damage.
And that's actually something that I wanted to ask you as well. So you mentioned that companies, let's say, may have some type of protection in place, different cybersecurity solutions. What's the secret sauce of Skyflare? How does Skyflare complements or how does Skyflare covers a major gap in, let's say, a company's security stack?
There's few parts. One part, if we look at, there's different platforms that they offer you the hosted shop. If we take, for example, Shopify, that you get the shop, you don't need to worry about the security of your server. You don't need to, updates and all these things. So you kind of don't have the same issues as somebody who installed, on their own or had somebody installing an open source thing. And when they set up their servers, they might forget to protect the server properly. So there's two parts. One part when you're looking at Shopify, that you're using a SaaS platform. So you don't have all the problems that somebody with an, self-hosted part have. But they do, for example, Shopify, they have some fraud protection that will give you, 5 different, or I think it was 13 different indicators this order might be fraudulent. Okay, what about the other problems? So, for example, one of the problems we solve with Skyflare is the ad fraud. So you put an ad, lots of people will click on it, they will drain your budget. Then, usually when you put ads, you want the legitimate users to see it, they click on it, they come to your shop, they buy. But just the simple part of it, we're not even talking about click farms or somebody who's trying to attack that. But if I'm your competitor, I'll just go Google your name, see your ad, click on it as much as I want. That will go out of your budget. It depends also on how much each click costs you. It can be, I might need 1,000 clicks, or you might like 5 clicks just to cause enough damage. For example, if you search for the word CLM, every time you click on ad on Google when you see a CLM, that costs at least $70 to $80 because it's a expensive keyword. So this one problem with the whole world of ad click fraud, it's not solved with Shopify because they are just the shop. They don't know what you are doing with the ads. Okay, there's a solution for ads. Cool. If, let's say, in the world that Skyflare didn't exist, you could, and you still can buy some competitors, you can go and buy that solution. Okay, now we solved 2 problems. Then we come to the point that you have another problem with bots, that they come to your shop, they scrape, they do some damage. Okay, so now you need another solution. So you see, and there's other 5, or for now there's like 5 different major attack vectors, but you need now to go buy another solution. Even though you use Shopify, for example, it's like a hosted SaaS solution. They secure their servers, but they didn't touch your ads. They do some fraud prevention, but it's not sophisticated. It just looks at some, they don't try to market that, as their major selling point. And the number of problems, they keep growing. So now you need to buy another solution. And then it gets worse when you have a self-hosted setup, because you still have all the problems. And on top of that, you have that somebody can hack into your server, change some stuff. So now we give you a solution that will fix almost all of these problems. And of course, if anything comes, we will be able to add a new module to the system because it's built in separate modules, so it can be extended as much as we need.
So I think you're already talking a lot of these use cases that are typically underserved, where you probably need 2-3 different solutions, and basically you can cover all of those plus some additional ones with Skyflare. So I think that's a fantastic overview. So, but how exactly do you stumble with this idea? Like, how do you found these problem? How exactly is it that the 3 of you were like, yeah, this is a big thing, let's go for it? Was that something that you stumbled with? Was that already something that you had in your mind for many years already?
I can give the start of when the idea was kind of pushing me. At least I do lots of online shopping. Okay, that's I think everybody does these days, but I kind of few years ago, first when I was like, okay, we need to fix this thing, I ordered something and I had so many issues with it. It was flagged as fraud. I had to pay the delivery guy in cash, and then my money from the credit card was held by some company. I had to chase it. It was like, I think it took 67 different emails to just resolve a simple issue that you just buy something and then they just decided it's fraud because first time I'm buying from this shop. And for me, it was like I did already lots of fraud prevention before for online banks. I know different kinds of companies that they do fraud prevention for e-commerce. Then I was like, okay, what's the problem? Why they don't have a proper solution? That doesn't make sense to mark somebody who's trying to buy something for the first time. It was expensive thing, so they are going to lose me as a customer anyway, because it wasn't fun. So like after the initial checking, I was like, okay, there are some solutions for the fraud. I don't know if they are good or bad, but it's not a problem, but they were expensive. So if you want a decent fraud prevention solution, or like the starting point, we're talking about like 1,000 or 1,500 per month. Regardless of your size as a shop, then they will take a portion of each order. They will take some percentage. I was like, yeah, it doesn't make sense for small shops to spend 1,500 on a solution that they had the problem only once or twice. And then it stuck in my head. And I think at some point I told Claudia about it, that I have an idea, maybe not now, but in few years I will try to do something about it. And we started talking a lot, and I think there was some planning when it should have been started, and then COVID started. If we remember, like there was the time that COVID hit, and then some delays here and there because it was confusing time. And we were always on touch on everything. We were talking about it, trying to see how it can be done. Then I think after COVID a bit cooled down, like, okay, it's time to start. And then it was an idea, started to do some POCs, try to see if it somebody really needs it. If it's like, even if you build it and it's perfect, you need to see if people will like it and how hard it will be to get some customers.
And what was then, after these initial experiments, what was the compelling event that ultimately brought the three of you together? What was that aha moment, that big milestone that you hit where you said, like, hey, let's go for it?
I can tell you that, at least from my side, what the story that Zaher was telling, I experienced a very similar situation. Like, from a customer perspective, I was buying Christmas presents, Sergio, for a company actually where I work together with Claudia. And I was buying Christmas presents with her credit card under my name and sending these Christmas presents all over Europe. And then I got flagged because it was a male's name with a credit card from maybe a woman sending products to all over Europe and with an invoice in Berlin. A very similar experience to what Zaher was telling you about, which was also a point for me to definitely understand that there is a broken customer journey from that perspective, but also trying to understand why it is broken, and that it's also broken for the web shops. So not just the customers. So we had a very bitter experience, but also probably the web shops, they would have loved to receive the money that they didn't receive from the Christmas presents that I couldn't buy because I got flagged. So as you can see, both journeys were broken or are broken from this perspective, from the cybersecurity perspective. And this is why I would say it was for me also the aha moment for, like, sure, let's join this idea.
And the three of you were working together, if I'm not mistaken, or you were connected before Skyflare. So what was that moment where you said, like, let's go and establish a new company between the three of us?
Basically, we've known each other for a very long time already. We've been working together at KIWI, my former startup company. Zaher was our CTO, Juan, our head of operations. I was one of the three founders. So we had plenty of time to get to know each other. So we had before already talked about, let's do something together. And the question was rather, what is the idea where we can have a lot of impact and scale it fast? And that's luckily where Zaher came in. And for me, it was the same story during COVID. My credit card got stolen 3 times in 1 month. And I always called Zaher and said, what's going on? Look at my computer remotely. What do I have? What malware is there? But I also think from a startup perspective, because I've been working a lot with startups the last years. And another point I want to come back to that Zaher stressed is resources are scarce and money is expensive for startups. And every euro they spend on AdWords needs to be a euro well invested. So it's the protection of the user, but it's also the protection of the resources of the online shop. And at the end of the day, also the protection of the customer journey that will lead to more customers and more success. So it's really more than pure security, because security sometimes, some people love it, but some people think, oh, this is a bit boring. This is kind of, yeah, it's nice to have, but it doesn't make a difference for the business. But I think we can see from the examples that it really does.
100%. I'm well aware about how sensitive marketing budgets are and how big they can get very quickly. I think that's an incredible issue that it's there, and it's fantastic that you're building a solution for that. And now, so the three of you came together. What's the role of each of you play? So I know your titles, but what's, let's say, the main focus areas of each of the three of you?
I do the tech stuff. Yeah, like everything, like building the product, doing the research, everything like around that part.
For me, as the operations part, it's of course like creating the processes for the customer acquisition, which is what we're working on right now.
For me, my part is clearly finance and bringing to the table, like getting investors on board, structuring also the legal side of investment and getting equity on board, and also building the network here. So with everything I've done in the last years.
And in addition to the three of you, like, how big is Skyflare nowadays?
So we have 2 people as freelancers supporting us right now with product topics, with marketing topics. Hopefully we will get them on board in full time very soon. But in terms of like operational team, it's the 3 of us backed by some interesting investors coming from very different areas, some of them coming from e-commerce, others coming from software as a service, some of them LPs in different funds. So that's also really good to have the trust of people that have decades of experience in building companies and in selling them, which is also what we want to do.
And what are these big milestones that you've already achieved? So you already established the company, you're already bringing the initial team members on board. What are other big milestones that you guys have achieved since the foundation of Skyflare?
So the product is ready. Right now, it's you're able to find it, and the feedback that we have received from people is that it's a very mature and very complete product. So it's ready. It's no longer an MVP. It's no longer a POC. It's there, and it's generating already monthly recurring revenue. So we have around 40 customers. We are a B2B startup, which means that we just deal with businesses, and we have around 40 different webshop owners in 4 to 5 different countries already using Skyflare. And I think the next milestones that we want to achieve is, of course, scale up these 40 to hopefully very soon 1,000 customers, which is what we just put ourselves as a goal for the next months.
I would like to add something to the question of the team size. I always find that an interesting question because I think we three, since we've been working together and separately in different team sizes, one of our visions for the company is also to have a very limited team size. So we don't want to grow beyond 10 people because this is the kind of work environment that we like and we strive in. And we also think technology makes it possible, even with a very small team, to build a big customer base and revenue source. And this is one of the motivations we have to show that, especially in B2B SaaS, this is feasible.
And I think, thank you for saying that, Claudia. I think that's a super important topic because also the way now companies are being built. And I think that was a big shift of paradigm from the previous way of building businesses to what we see today, probably starting from last year. The fact that we see always leaner teams, smaller teams, which let's say with all the new tools available, call it AI, call it whatever. But I think teams are getting smaller, but much more productive and able to serve a larger amount of customers, continue scaling at the same speed. So thank you for mentioning that, because I think this is a great testament to the fact of how this new way of building ventures is in our days. But let's say now coming to that expectation of having, let's say, a small but high-performing team, like why do you believe that, let's say, between the three of you, that you have the right mix to make these ventures successful? So if what I see is, I think you have all bases covered: tech, finance, operations. What, from your perspective, is that winning recipe or that winning mix that the three of you bring?
I think from my perspective, as you mentioned before, I have been working with Claudia for 10 years and also worked with Zaher for some time in KIWI and in other things. I think it's super important, the team and the people that you pick to work with. And even though that I have heard before that the first 10 hires of your startup are super important, in our case, we're just going to hire 10. So it's also for us, we have a very clear vision of where we want to go. The three of us, we know what we want to do, what we want to build, and we have seen many different things here in Berlin happening, good things, bad things, and we just try to learn from those. So we will try to maximize and optimize as possible.
And I think what you just mentioned, one of these is super important in terms of that trust and, let's say, track record that the three of you have working together, which I think it's more of an exception rather than the rule in many startup teams, where some know each other from just a few, probably a couple of years or so, but you have a longer history working. So I would imagine that the way decisions are taken, communications are done is probably much more efficient, much faster, much lean than in other startups that you've seen. Is that also what you guys see?
Yeah, would you agree with me on that? I mean, like organizations above 20 people, they are so, I see them, they're so slow in making decisions. And what I really like, for instance, of another project where I work with Claudia is in the same day we can change everything on the company because it's just three people that operationally do the decisions and take care of the work. And this is, I would say, the same philosophy that we will carry out in here. We are so lean and so small, and also with a very clear vision of what we want to do, that it makes it much easier when you trust the people that you're working with, right?
And talking about the vision, Juan, so what's the vision that you have? Let's say especially for the next 12 months? Like, what are those big objectives that you have ahead?
So we are raising a seed round next year. We're going to raise it and close it. We have already started soft conversations with investors, have received interesting feedback. Most of it, I would say, quite good feedback. Very happy with what we are doing right now. Also, we have this goal of scaling up the customer base. And also, we want to be present in some other platforms. So Shopify is the one where you can find us right now. But Zaher is right now working in also another platform where we're going to be probably by the end of this month available, which is a much more local German platform. But also we decided to do that because the feedback was from one specific customer that he was leaving Shopify. He was not happy, but he loved Skyflare. And he was like, why is not Skyflare in this other platform? And we say, why not? Well, let's do it. Let's create it. Let's make it available. So we want to be available in other platforms. We want to scale up, but we also want to remain very focused on what we're doing, like building this tech company and also pursuing an exit at one point. Like we are very sure of what we want to do, and it's going to be that path.
So we're talking about financing, we're talking about distribution, talking about also increasing the customer base. So big things that you have ahead.
We have a lot of big things. 2024 looks really, really, really interesting.
And now, in terms of how you're talking about scaling these business very quickly with a small team. So what are the systems, the mechanisms, the guidelines that you guys are putting in place to make sure that these teams that you're bringing on board beyond the three of you has that high standards, high performance, high speed, similar to what the three of you have? Like, how are you replicating that same culture that you built between the three of you with the broader team?
With the people that are joining the team, you mean, right?
That are today and that are expected to join the team, to those 10-team organization?
I think we're following the same formula that we did for the founding team, which means that they come from our network. We are sourcing something that I learned, for instance, with working with Claudia in another company was like sometimes the hiring process is much, much better when it's sourced through the network, to your personal network. So the two people that I'm talking about, that they are joining Skyflare and they're already working in improving the product and setting up the processes for marketing automation, they work with us. One of them has worked with us for 2 or 3 years in another company in 2 different projects. And I think the other one is also from, I think Claudia was her mentor in McKinsey around 10 years ago or something like that. So it's like a network base because we know the people, we trust the people. So it's a trust-based hiring, let's say.
I want to add to that because I've made the experience throughout my professional life, and you talked a lot about trust. Everyone's talking about trust, but it is actually very important to move fast. Also in the beginning, you need to trust the people to work independently. You also need to trust your future employee if there's no working contract yet. Yeah, can you trust to start working and you're sure you get something at the end of that? There's a lot of small and big trust points that play a crucial role to be fast in the beginning. And for me, it's really the core is around trust, reliability, and loyalty also. And that's what you get if you know the people and you live that culture, and then you can move much faster and get better results.
So it's basically the main ingredient, let's say, trust when it comes to building these high-performing team as the one that you're building.
Yes, that's what we believe.
That's what we think, yeah.
That's fantastic. So what I would be very interested is to learn, what's your best advice for aspiring founders like the three of you? What would be your top advice for anyone that would like to follow a similar path like the three of you, of coming together from different backgrounds, building a lean but highly efficient team? What would be your top advice for them?
My main one is don't do it alone. And it's much easier to, even if the people that you decide to work with don't understand the problem or they are not from the field you're trying to tackle, but you trust them, then don't do it alone. Like it's easier to navigate when you have support, and that's always a good thing that you have the support as part of the venture, not some friends that you can talk to once in a while. That's fun, but it's not when the real things are happening. So at least my suggestion to anybody who wants to start something, at least have one more person.
I can say something to your question because you also mentioned diverse cultural backgrounds. So for me, it's really about staying curious and trying to learn. It's also often called open-mindedness. But I think that diverse teams really have an unfair advantage because they see different angles to a problem. But also you need to kind of sometimes force it a bit, right? And really find those different angles to the problem, because sometimes it's also, there are things that people don't like to talk about openly. So, and this relates back to the trust base, because you can really leverage those cultural differences and backgrounds when you have the trust base, because then it brings out the beauty of diversity.
I would agree with both Zaher and Claudia. And for me, it's like to talk about it. Like a lot of people are super scared that they're going to steal your ideas. Ideas can be stolen, but not implementations. And I think that you should always talk. You should always get feedback from people, but you should always also be fast, right? So just like not talk and do at the same time, but like talk, because you don't know who can be your customer or who can be your investor or who can make an introduction to someone that's relevant to your business. So I would say network and talk, it's also very important, no matter the stage of the founder or the experience of the founder.
So doing it together, diversity, talking and sharing, those are some of the golden nuggets that we just heard. So Zaher, Claudia, Juan, thank you very much for your time. Again, all the best. I think you have a lot of ambitious plans ahead of you. I wish all the best moving forward. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you, Sergio, for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
And thanks to you for joining us today. Please remember to subscribe via your favorite podcast app to be notified about new episodes and share with us your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Thank you also to the Maxpreneurs team, Valeria Morel, Hector Barragan from Hypervoltage, Francisco Jaimes, Pamela Elizalde, Katia Cruz, Rocío Marroquín. I am Sergio Chavez. See you next time.